best. And it became a goal of mine to somehow get in his stratosphere. I never got there, but I got close.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And so I think about those days. And then Mark, played with them and went to Nashville for a while. And when he came back, I'd gotten a little better. I remember he walked into Steve Brinker's house, and had a Les Paul, and I was playing, and he goes, "Wow, you've gotten pretty good, man." And I'll never forget that. So I remember Mark fondly from those days, but then it changed, it evolved. And Mark and I in Denver, and Rick Bauckham, we've been through variations, but 22 years ago, we formed the Honchos.
Oh, yeah.
And we had some gigs, and we were doing pretty good. We were having fun. We lost our bass player to cancer, and then our harp player to blood infection. And it was a tough life. But Mark never had a negative word to say about me.
Never did.
He was the most positive guy. And at this end of this phase, Mark and I started playing some acoustic gigs. And mostly for charity. There was a charity in Kyle, Hope and Love for Kids, that we played 4 or 5 gigs for. And Mark we didn't get paid, but he didn't care. He would show up, and I was saying to somebody else about this, but I live in South Austin, and Mark would come down there once or twice a week to rehearse. And that's an hour and 20 minutes if there's no traffic. And we would practice for a couple of hours, and he would go back, take him an hour and a half to get home. So he was in the car more than he was in the studio. And that always impressed me about Mark. He never had a bad word to say about it. Well, and I think about that it was a little over a year. It wasn't the gigs that I was excited about. It was the time we got to sit rehearsing together. We were cutting up, talking stories, and having fun. And I never forget that time. He was the kindest, most gentle person. And, he went on with the Honchos, and that was a lot of fun. But I always look back on that time in my life as having, he was a fabulous guitar player, no question about it. Everybody that's ever heard him play will agree with that. But he was a great guy. And looking past his guitar, his heart was tremendous. So I wanted to share those thoughts with you and just tell you how much I loved him. And he loved all of you guys. Mark liked everybody. Never met anybody he didn't like him. So Kathy and your family, I hope your memory of Mark will bring a smile to your face, because it really should. And I wish you Godspeed and God bless. Thank you.
I will. I miss him. What you do. And I can say a few words, I guess, and try not to cry. But I'm going to have to put up with it, because I'm going to cry a little bit. But Mike and I were together for 6. Is this on?
It doesn't sound like it.
No,
Not very
no.
loud.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Right close to your mouth.
Oh, yeah, there it is. We met out here in La Vista. And with our singles group called 55 Plus, Singles of La Vista. Some of us are still here, the original group. And so I knew Mark as a friend first. And then we ended up hooking up and we had 6 years together from the date of our first kiss, San Antonio, New Year's Eve, 2019. And so it was all good. And he was diagnosed with cancer Had it for 4 years. We were engaged when we found out about it. And we just decided to live life and go for whatever we could and do whatever we wanted to. And so he retired and I was retired and we bought the RV and took off. And it's kind of funny because Mark's never been camping before. I love camping and I taught him everything he knows. Except for driving that RV. That's all in Mark. He does he can drive that RV and back it and blah blah blah. But I can't. But we had a great time traveling, doing fun stuff. And he was a wonderful person. Love of my life. And the joy. I think we brought joy to each other. So I feel very fortunate, and y'all, a lot of you were at the wedding, so you know that we had a beautiful wedding, and we had a beautiful love life, or love together, each other, and family. Those grandkids, he loved them too, and got to experience little kids. Anyway, I just appreciate everybody coming and knowing that y'all kept Mark's memories. And I will continue to keep his memories too. And we all know in our hearts who the good ones are that leave when they're gone too soon. But they sure were left a great impression and part of our lives that we love. So bless you, Mark. Love you.
I don't know a lot of people here, but I knew Mark. And I have to read what I wrote. So I can't do it off the cuff like some people can, but I'm going to read it. First time I met Mark at the wedding, I immediately liked him. Don't know exactly why, but he was very, very personable, likable, and seemed to always have a smile on his face. I mean, all the time. I assumed at some point that smile would fade, but I never saw it. I never saw it. So even though I didn't really know him, I thought I knew him quite well. Excuse me, like an old Air Force buddy who I hadn't seen in 30 years, but had flown with him, drank beers with him, chased women. Well, you know what I mean. I get the idea there. A really neat guy, and felt like I had known him a very, very long time. Not really a lot of people who I've come across in my life like that, maybe 5 or 6, who you instantly like and feel you could tell them anything and they would understand, take them to the bar, and they'd buy the beers. When Mark and Kathy visited us with their RV, Mark was very gracious the entire visit, and that smile never left his face, even while setting up the RV. I mean, come on.
Back into the driveway going, oh, you can do it. On a cul-de-sac.
But in just concluding, even though I had only a few times with Mark, and even though I didn't know him real well, like some people here, I really thought I knew him very well. Just because of the way he handled himself, and just because that was Mark. Rest in peace, Mark. You were a good one. We are missing you and your smile.
Tom is my sister's husband. A
Don't
good.
tell him that.
No, we took the RV and parked it in their driveway for a week. It was great because they live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it was a good chance. We kept wanting to get everybody out here to Lago too. I gotta go. Neil, I love my kids.
Well, I'm just sorry he's not here to enjoy this. He would love this.
He might enjoy it.
No, he might be.
Hi, Forrest, Miss Carter, she can make it too.
I'm gonna try to keep it as upbeat as I can. Mark and I, his last name Majors, my last name is Mahach. We were in the same homeroom together,
Yeah.
but we never were friends.
Alphabetical.
I'd look over there and all I saw was Mark with this big hair, and he had on this jacket that he got from the mounted posse that said Johnny on it.
Yeah.
And all I knew him by was Johnny. But, you know, like he said, all he ever had was a smile on his face, and he's just a good guy. Well, I had something else I was going to say, and I can't think of it. But anyway,
Join the crowd, we can't have come to you.
next.
About your playing today or anything?
Huh?
You gonna say something about when y'all play music together or anything like that?
Here.
Well, we were in a band together. We were in the Eldorados, morphed into the LDs. I guess somebody else already had the name somewhere. Or something. Anyway, we played a lot of places, had a lot of fun together. And, that's it.
That music is, Anyway,
I'm just glad
tell me
there's
who you
pictures
are
of-
and how you do, Mark.
I'm just glad there's pictures of Mark with big dark hair.
Somebody say hair.
You're on your way.
I made friends with Mark when we were both 5 years old.
Oh my God.
We were in kindergarten. And the last time I saw him, I said, I know you longer than anybody else I know in my whole life. My own sister, my mom and dad were gone. That was about 20 years ago. We were great friends. I remember going to Bounce Land in Spring Branch together, a place where they had trampolines, and we both loved it. It was fantastic. It was great. And one thing we both liked, on the Cracker Jack box, there's a picture of a sailor saluting, right? You all have seen that.
Yeah.
Mark and I both liked it, and we would stand there in the hallway at Pine Shadows Elementary School, saluting each other. And I did that, and I hit him in the nose. And his nose started bleeding. And a couple of days later, I was out on the playground. Somebody grabbed my arms and held me from behind my back. And up comes Mark. And he's going, kindergarten. But before he could deliver, the teacher intervened. I don't know why, but we weren't really friends after that. But we met up again as teenagers at 16 years old, and we played in Felix Fly with these two guys and one other guy, Dusty Waitman, who's in California, couldn't make it today. And it was a great experience, you know. Mark and I had a rivalry. We're both guitarists, but also it was a rivalry on who was the skinniest. But believe it or not, I was 6 feet tall then. I'm not anymore, and I weighed 120 pounds. But Mark was right there with me. So. But I was really happy when we got together again. Quite a few years later, we did a reunion of the old band. We played a gig and we made an album, which is available if you look for it on Spotify or
For free.
Believe me, yeah, I'm way underwater on that. So you can stream stuff free.
Yeah, Mark,
And have a
Mark
listen.
sings a song on it.
He sings a song on it. Serves Me Right to Suffer, and he also plays some great guitar on it. I had the chance to tell him how much I appreciated his musicianship and his excellent, playing while we were together.
Who was the skinniest then?
Well, it is in doubt. It is in dispute. But it feels like something fundamental has gone missing. I was hoping to do a few more tunes, you know, and to get him into the studio and do a few more things, but that's not going to happen. I'm really sorry about that. So
He loved playing with the guys.
my condolences to everybody, and it's a loss for all of us.
Yes, thank you. Life's gone too soon.
You gonna talk, David?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get this over with. Well, I'm Mike Pritchard, I was a drummer in.
Closer.
Um,
Mike Pritchard.
Yes.
You contacted me out of
I
the blue.
contacted Kathleen,
And
because
said, I heard Mark passed.
Yeah, and was in shock, and I couldn't, Rick Bauckham passed the word, and it went through
Yeah,
the Spring Branch like wildfire.
Yeah. Well, glad you're here.
Well,
Share the
Felix
memories.
Fly was formed and we were freshmen, and Mark wasn't in it until the sophomore year, but when we got him, the band just came together, and he's a great guitar player. And we did an album later, after this 40th reunion that Ben's talked about, and it's really good. Y'all ought to stream it. It's on Amazon, Spotify,
YouTube music.
YouTube. If you want to see some live performances, I know it's a stupid name, Felix Fly. What is Felix Fly? We were pretty hip in the Summer of Love. We had heard it was an art in Memorial High School. That was the name where we got the name from. But you can dial up Felix Fly on YouTube and see us play that 40th reunion. Mark does his classic Hoochie Coochie Man, where he plays guitar with his teeth. That always brought the house down. But Mark and I had a lot of adventures. The first real adventure we had was, well, the reason Mark got to be such a good guitar player was he had a great guitar teacher, a man named John Cameron Andrews, Toad Andrews, who played with one of the greatest singers, Tracy Nelson, and her band Mother Earth. And John and Doug Major, y'all were frat brothers in college, and Doug talked John into teaching Mark to play, and boy, he took it to it like a duck on water. And so in our sophomore year, this story's gonna kill you, I've heard it a million times, but it's one of the best things I've ever happened. Mark and I took a Greyhound bus to Austin to hear Mother Earth and Tracy Nelson play at the Vulcan Gas and Light Company. Maybe some of y'all old timers went over there, and
Heard of it.
we met the band, and we were just in awe. These are real rock stars, and they were so nice to us. We Boz Scaggs, maybe you guys have heard of him. He did a little bit of stuff later on. He was touring with Tracy at that time. He had just left the Steve Miller Band and was playing with Tracy, and they played at the Vulcan, and Tracy had Mark come up and asked Boz to step off the stage, and Mark took Boz's place and played a blistering blues solo that brought the house down. And that was a great moment for me. I was watching proudly from the side. That he was a dear friend of mine, and you can see the smiles.
Yeah,
Everybody,
he loved everything. He loved
I
life.
mean, he could see he was so happy that you had so, and he'll be so greatly missed. You know, his musicianship, like Ben said, we were working on some more music, and Neil mentioned driving, down where now.
Oh, yeah.
He would drive down from Austin to Houston and record and drive back to Austin. I mean, he had that kind of a spirit. He would drive anywhere to play and played his buns off. Just a great musician and great friend. So he'll be missed. I could bore you all with stories all night long, but it was great. Well, I'll let the third member of the quartet come on. My brother-in-law, Stephen Carr, my wife Zan back there. That we knew each other in high school. We weren't allowed to date back then because he wouldn't allow it. But
She was too young.
She was too young and I was too wild. But we met up at the 40th reunion. It was pretty memorable. And I asked Steve, I said, how's your sister Nancy? Fine. I said, how many kids she has? He goes, she's single. I said, what? I guess a girl that pretty still be single. I said, well, she is. So, one time led to another. I told him later that night, Steve, I'm going to marry your sister. And I told him at 3 in the morning, and I did about 8 months later. So, Mark had a way of bringing everybody together.
Everybody, let's.
Yeah, we were all together. So anyway, thanks for hearing me out. But we loved him. We loved him. And you can, I love the smiles. That's Mark. That's Mark. Thank you.
Grinning, always. Thank you, Mike,
You need a chair?
for reaching out.
He's a little wobbly on his feet.
The chair.
He fell off the table and broke his
Well,
foot.
join the crowd.
Of course, you should have never tried to stand on the table in the first
No, I wasn't
place.
standing on tables either.
There you go.
I heard you were dancing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're like weed eating.
He wasn't dancing on the table, he just stood on the table.
That's a good story, Gretchen.
Well, the first time that I met Mark was over at a place that we used to get together and play guitars, except the 2 guys I played with, we really weren't very good. And although I had played piano for several years, and one evening, Vance and Mike and Dusty and Mark came over to Aunt Gloria's. Y'all remember her, didn't you?
Victorian Village.
Screaming school.
In the branch.
Yeah.
Spring
Well,
branch.
she's passed now, if you guys didn't know.
Rest in peace, Aunt Lori.
But, so is Alex, if y'all didn't know that.
Yeah.
But, anyway, when they came over, we kind of, afterwards, this was a ritual that we did practically every weekend. And they came over one weekend, and we had a little